In professional wrestling, we're used to thinking that everything we see is carefully orchestrated. The promos, the moves, the match outcomes, all meticulously planned down to the second. But every now and then, the script doesn't survive contact with reality. In WCW, one of the most prominent wrestling companies in history, there were countless moments where what happened in the ring, or backstage, was completely unscripted. These were moments that left fans shocked, jaws dropped, and conversations buzzing long after the episode ended. From real-life disagreements spilling over into live broadcasts, to in-ring accidents and unplanned chaos, WCW was filled with unpredictability. Today, we're diving into 11 of the most shocking unscripted WCW moments that prove wrestling isn't always as controlled as it seems. Let's start with a man who could turn a calm scene into a powder keg without warning, Scott Steiner. Big Papa Pump epitomized the unpredictability that defined WCW during its final years. Behind the scenes, Steiner had a reputation for having a volatile temper, always teetering on the edge of confrontation. On the February 7, 2000 episode of Nitro, that instability erupted live on national television. Steiner grabbed a microphone, and instead of following a scripted promo, he launched a verbal assault directly at Ric Flair. There was no storyline justification, no planned rivalry. He simply unloaded every grievance he had been carrying. He mocked Flair's age, appearance, and backstage influence, dredging up past controversies, including the notion that Flair had influenced Steve Austin's WCW departure. The segment went so long that the broadcast had to adjust other parts of the show to compensate. Though Steiner was reportedly suspended afterward, this moment remains a textbook example of the chaos that WCW had become. Next up is a moment that proves sometimes the script isn't the scariest part of a live show. Brian Pillman, the original loose cannon, blurred the lines between reality and performance better than anyone. His unpredictability terrified not just fans, but his colleagues as well. During Clash of the Champions 32, while Pillman faced Eddie Guerrero, he suddenly abandoned the match and walked toward the commentary desk. Bobby Heenan, seated at the table, was caught completely off guard. Pillman grabbed him from behind, and in an instant Heenan cursed on live television, thinking he'd been attacked by a fan. He even stumbled backward, visibly shaken, before regaining composure. The moment perfectly captured the genius of Pillman's character. He wasn't just performing chaos, he created genuine uncertainty for everyone around him. Later, Pillman apologized, but the moment still stands as an unforgettable slice of live unpredictability. If you thought that was wild, imagine a hardcore match spilling into a literal horse stable. In May 2000 on Thunder, Terry Funk and Chris Candido took their brawling to another level while fighting for the hardcore title. They fought through hay, water, and even horse manure before entering a stable where Funk delivered a dangerous piledriver too close to an unsuspecting horse. Startled, the horse kicked backward, narrowly missing the wrestlers. While no one was seriously hurt, the segment perfectly illustrates WCW's late-era recklessness. What looked like entertainment could have quickly turned into real disaster. Then there's Goldberg, whose strength and intensity unintentionally ended a legend's career. At Starrcade 1999, during a match with Bret Hart, Goldberg delivered a big boot that resulted in a severe concussion and neck injury for Hart. It wasn't malicious, but the impact was immediate and career-altering. From that moment on, Hart was never the same in the ring, and the injury left long-lasting effects, shaping his perspective on wrestling for years. It's a stark reminder of how one moment in a match can change everything. WCW also had moments where the script couldn't contain real human emotion. Randy Savage, known for his intensity, exemplified this during the summer of 1999. On the July 5th episode of Nitro, after Kevin Nash taunted him regarding Gorgeous George, Savage stormed backstage and confronted Tori Wilson. When Wilson laughed during his outburst, Savage slapped her in a moment that crossed the boundary between performance and real-life aggression. This incident, observed by Turner Broadcasting personnel, resulted in Savage being pulled from television temporarily. It was a rare example of real emotion overtaking the scripted storyline, leaving a lasting mark on everyone involved. Sometimes the chaos was pure comedy. The Shockmaster's debut in 1993 is one of wrestling's most infamous botches. Fred Ottman was introduced as a mysterious ally, expected to make a powerful live entrance by smashing through a wall. Instead, he tripped over a wooden beam and fell flat on his face, with his helmet flying off, instantly destroying the character's intimidation factor. What was meant to be awe-inspiring became hilariously unforgettable, and the Shockmaster would forever be remembered as a symbol of unscripted wrestling absurdity. Professional wrestling is usually full of careful planning, especially when it comes to titles. But at Super Brawl 8, an unexpected injury changed everything. Rick Martel, the reigning television champion, injured his knee during a hip toss. With the match going off script, Booker T was forced to win the title on the fly. Complicating matters, Booker had another match scheduled immediately afterward. Despite the chaos, both wrestlers improvised flawlessly, ensuring the audience witnessed a seamless yet unplanned title change. Moments like these highlight the professionalism of wrestlers adapting under pressure while keeping the audience engaged. Even the most precise wrestlers can have unplanned mishaps. Dean Malenko, often called the Iceman for his meticulous style, forgot the stipulations of his own match at Sold Out 2000. Facing Billy Kidman in a triple threat theater opening match, he stepped outside the ring, instantly disqualifying himself. The crowd was baffled and the match ended abruptly, creating one of the few moments where Malenko's disciplined style gave way to unscripted chaos. This incident also marked his final WCW appearance before moving to WWE, adding an extra layer of historical significance. WCW's backstage politics often bled into the broadcast too. After Scott Hall was fired in October 2000, Kevin Nash and DDP openly defied WCW orders by mentioning Hall repeatedly on television. Despite clear instructions to avoid his name, they encouraged fans to chant for him and discussed him in interviews, forcing the network to mute parts of a segment. By this point, WCW had lost control, and the major stars were dictating their own narratives. This is a prime example of how behind-the-scenes tensions sometimes became the main event in WCW. Sometimes an unscripted slip comes from a single word. At Spring Stampede 1997, Booker accidentally blurred something on live television during a promo with his brother Stevie Ray and Cher Martel. Their goal was to deliver a message to Hulk Hogan, but Booker's accidental word made the tension almost unbearable. His immediate reaction showed the real-world consequences of improvisation in front of millions of viewers. While there were no major repercussions, Booker carried the embarrassment for years, proving that even a single line can define a moment. Finally, there's the infamous fast count, or rather the non-fast count, that altered wrestling history. At Starrcade 1997, the build-up to Sting vs. Hulk Hogan was monumental. The plan was for referee Nick Patrick, aligned with the heels, to execute a blatantly fast count, heightening drama before Sting's eventual victory. But when the moment arrived, Patrick counted at a normal pace, unintentionally undermining the storyline. The match had to be restarted, and the sequence felt awkward and confusing to fans who expected the perfect climactic payoff. This moment became one of the most discussed controversies in WCW history, highlighting how a single misstep can echo for years. WCW was a company where the unpredictable became the norm. Whether it was Scott Steiner unloading on Ric Flair, Brian Pillman shocking everyone at commentary, Goldberg unintentionally ending a career, or Fred Ottman tumbling through a wall as the Shockmaster, these moments weren't scripted. They were raw, unscripted chaos captured live for fans to witness. Sometimes dangerous, sometimes hilarious, and sometimes shocking, they remind us that wrestling is as much about human unpredictability as it is about the moves and storylines. These 11 moments prove that in WCW, anything could happen, and often did, leaving an indelible mark on fans and wrestlers alike.
Although roughly 99.9% of the things that have happened in professional wrestling over the years have been carefully scripted and planned for, spontaneity is bound to creep in every once in a while. In fact, some of the most memorable moments in WWE history were unscripted. While some of those unscripted moments were positive and others were negative, they're all memorable due to the fact that they took the wrestling world by surprise. The vast majority of wrestling fans understand that everything is scripted these days, but even the most jaded fans aren't immune to marking out for a spontaneous event. Among the 10 most memorable unscripted moments in WWE history are a number of diverse happenings, including injuries, concepts, and off-the-cuff moments in matches or promos. In the interest of focusing on the positives, though, tragedies such as Owen Hart's untimely death won't be included, as we remember that for all the wrong reasons. One of the most entertaining combinations in WWE history was most definitely The Rock and Sock connection. Although The Rock wasn't particularly thrilled about having to team with Mankind, their partnership was a major success as their comedic abilities meshed so well. Never was that more apparent than when The Rock was cutting a promo during an episode of SmackDown. Generally speaking, The Rock was the more serious of the two and often became annoyed with Mankind, while Mankind was simply trying to get The Rock to like him. The odd couple ultimately became WWE Tag Team Champions 3 times and formed a strong bond as well, so a lot of good came of their unconventional union. The most popular interaction between The Rock and Mankind was probably the "This Is Your Life" segment, in which Mankind brought in people from The Rock's past. That entire segment was scripted, however. One moment that was spontaneous, though, was when The Rock was cutting a promo and was about to deliver his famous "If you smell what The Rock is cooking" line. As he did it, though, his sunglasses came flying off, at which point Mankind picked them up and handed them back to The Rock. The crowd erupted in applause, and The Rock said very matter-of-factly, "The Rock thanks you for that." It may not seem like much on the surface, but it was a very funny moment. One of the most ridiculous concepts in WWE history was the Brawl for All tournament. This tournament was held in the summer of 1998, and it was essentially a shoot-fighting contest that involved WWE superstars actually engaging in combat. The fighting was a mixture of boxing and MMA, and was meant to add an element of realism to the product. There were 16 different superstars who took part in the tournament, and it didn't go well for most of them. Steve Blackman, Road Warrior Hawk, and Savio Vega all suffered legitimate injuries, but the man who incurred the most damage was Dr. Death's Steve Williams. Dr. Death was a huge star around the world and regarded as one of the toughest men in wrestling, so most believe that Brawl for All was meant to get him over as a beast in the eyes of the fans. Rather than just building Williams in the traditional sense, though, he took part in the tournament and was ultimately embarrassed. Bart Gunn shockingly knocked him out in the second round and went on to win the whole tournament. As bad as Brawl for All was, the WWE had an opportunity to make Gunn a star. Instead, he was pitted against famed boxer Butterbean at WrestleMania XV.
Most wrestling fans would agree that current WWE champion CM Punk first rose to true stardom in the summer of 2011 after he delivered what has since been dubbed his pipe bomb promo. On an episode of Raw, Punk interfered in a match between John Cena and R-Truth, and while both of them were prone in the ring, Punk went to the top of the ramp while wearing a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt and cut the best promo of his life. Punk brought up a number of different issues and revealed that his contract was up and he would be leaving the WWE after Money in the Bank. He badmouthed Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H. He degraded the fans and even gave a shout out to his good friend Colt Cabana. Punk said things that many fans have thought for a long time, and that is why the promo is so well regarded. The only thing more controversial than the promo itself, though, may be its inclusion on this list. I'm fully aware that Punk didn't hijack the show, and that the WWE brass knew he was going to cut a scathing promo, but it was a worked shoot rather than a straight work. Punk essentially had free reign of the microphone, so it was technically an unscripted moment. I still believe to this day that Punk meant most of the things he said, and although the WWE gave him a platform to say those things, I doubt they knew exactly how far he was going to go. Even if Punk's promo wasn't totally spontaneous, it deserves a spot on this list. There are times over the course of a match in which things don't go according to plan, and that forces the combatants to call an audible on the fly. Such instance occurred in the street fight between Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon at King of the Ring 2001, but rather than abandoning the original plan, Angle and Shane O'Mac set out to finish what they started. At one point during the match, the action spilled to the top of the stage. Part of the King of the Ring set was a number of glass panes, and Angle attempted to suplex McMahon through it. He failed the first time and tried again, but McMahon once again bounced off the glass. On top of that, Shane hit his head on the stage fairly hard. McMahon could have called the stunt off, but they gave it one last try and Angle was able to put him through. He then tossed Shane through yet another glass pane after that. The plan all along was for Angle to put McMahon through the glass, but it was only supposed to take one suplex. Instead, they had to go through the process 3 times. While Shane definitely got his bell rung, this unscripted moment was great for the match. It made Angle look vicious and McMahon look tough, and it simply added to the realism of the street fight. While it didn't happen during a televised WWE event, the MSG curtain call is an incident that most major wrestling fans have at least heard about. In early 1996, it was well known that Diesel and Razor Ramon would be leaving the WWE for more lucrative contracts in WCW. Their final WWE obligation was at a house show in New York City, and they certainly went out with a bang. Although it wasn't widely known at the time, a group of wrestlers known as the Clique controlled many of the backstage booking decisions in WWE. Among the members were Diesel and Razor, along with Shawn Michaels, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and the 1-2-3 Kid, although the latter wasn't involved in this particular situation. At the close of the show, Diesel, Razor, Michaels, and Triple H all embraced in the ring. This was an issue because 2 of them were faces and 2 of them were heels, so they weren't supposed to interact in that way in front of the fans. Kevin Nash maintains in the video above that they received clearance, but Triple H was subsequently punished for the incident by having his push curtailed. Whatever the case, Vince McMahon obviously didn't stay in that for long, as Michaels continued to be the top guy in the company. Triple H married McMahon's daughter, and both Nash and Scott Hall were welcomed back down the line. Even so, many consider the MSG curtain call to be the first big blow against the concept of kayfabe. If you enjoyed reliving these unforgettable instances, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere, because we're just scratching the surface of stories that showcase the wild, unscripted side of professional wrestling. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with even more tales from the Square Circle.